Welcome everybody back to session 3 of Aldholn. Little bit of things have changed up. We have reached out and we've gotten a new editor for the video. That is Myuwa. He will be linked in the description of the video. That's just at Myuwa on Twitter, and he has so graciously taken up the editing of the videos. We've also started trying to work with the audio a little bit better, just so that we can each have our own audio tracks. Hopefully that works out. We're still kind of testing all of that out, but hopefully that should mean that things are a little bit easier to understand going forward. So, now that we are officially starting session 3, who would like to handle the recap of the last session?
Let me take my notes.
Well, since Anne was it was Anne's turn last time, and Walf was unfortunately
indisposed.
I don't know why I almost said unconscious, but I mean.
I wish this cough would go away.
Yeah, I'll take over.
Goddamn.
So, okay, last time we met 2 of the people that we were supposed to meet during the quest line, and Varys and Silas respectively. It started off with us handing over the trinkets of the people that were lost during that unfortunate event at the cliff sides. I don't remember if it had a name, but it was like a campfire, right? And we defeated some of the gnolls. I remember one of them got away, very vaguely. I remember that. And then we went over to Barmwich. I think that was the name of the town, right? Barmwich.
Yeah, that's correct.
All right. So afterwards, we went to Barmwich, and as we were met with our contacts, and after exchanging pleasantries, getting to know one another, and also handing over the trinkets of the people, the casualties, unfortunately, we had the option to either rest up or go investigate the place that so very graciously opened up a hole in one of the buildings. And it turns out that we got into combat with a spirit of sorts who was very much into mindfuckery. And that was a very tough fight. I do remember that I think everyone got hurt really badly, and Wylle even fell unconscious. So that was definitely an unexpected turn of events. But we managed to deal with the ghost. I do remember as well Coco desperately trying to help Wylle. I'm sorry to tug on your heartstrings. And Mizu freaking out and not knowing what to do. Okay, yeah.
All right.
That's it.
Yep, that is indeed most of it, so go and mark off inspiration for this one session. So, indeed, following the rather harrowing experience in the lab of Dr. Roderick Trugust, an alchemist attempting to improve conditions with the border crossing, the party did indeed manage to dispatch a malevolent spirit haunting the guild alchemist called an Alip, a ghostly undead creature cursed with forbidden knowledge that was driving Roderick mad as it deposited its own twisted, fragmented thoughts into his head. And though much of the research was seemingly destroyed in the explosion, a result of Roderick's progressing psychosis, the party was able to find the alchemist's journal documenting his findings while under the enduring possession. And that while it was denoted in the journal that Roderick had indeed discovered some manner of easing the crossing of the Enari-Aresh border, citing some form of resonance with the Grove Shard crystal that had been sent to him from an unnamed supplier within the Adventurers Guild, the journal did not denote exactly how it is supposed to operate, or what it is effectively supposed to do. So Silas had taken both the Grove Shard and the journal into possession to go and run that by some of his own resources so that they could figure out what was effectively going to need to happen to get the crossing to work. And then, following the endeavor to exorcise the Phantom, the party did indeed regather themselves as Varys arrived and Roderick Truegust was escorted from his home to a clerical clinic where he is currently being tended to. In much of the same vein, the party was also admitted to the clinic and was admitted and discharged fairly quickly, the clerics simply stating that most of the damage the Alep did was psychic in nature, and that a good night's rest should be able to heal it completely. So you are all kind of discharged fairly quickly and allowed to leave. And then leaving the cleric's office, Varys had arranged for all of you to meet at a guild haven in town to discuss your findings and better plan for the border crossing tomorrow. So everybody at this point has had I would consider a long rest, because you did finish the prior fight fairly late at night. So the clerics did let you effectively stay overnight, just to at the very least sleep it all off, and discharged you in the morning. And at this point, you are all in the Barmwich city square, heading over to the guild office that Varys had pointed out for you. It's only about a couple of city blocks down. And then I totally forgot to go and open up and start the ambience. So as you all enter into the building, you are greeted with a fairly quaint little establishment, and also let me know if the audio is a little bit too loud.
We can,
Definitely
It's fine.
can adjust on our end.
Coco is still there in heaven.
Okay, yeah, I am just adjusting that on my end. That didn't quiet it for anybody else, did it?
It was a bit loud on my end, so I reduced it a bit.
Okay, yeah, so long as you have so long as you adjust it in your user volume controls, that should adjust it only for you. So, okay.
Yep.
All right. So, as you enter into the quaint little establishment, you do note that it is not too dissimilar to an inn or a tavern, with a fairly stocked but unmanned bar at one end over on the right, and a fairly expensive looking set of tables over on the left, with the largest round table situated in front of a fireplace with some decently nice chairs with backs reaching up to about your necks. As you look over, you do note that both Varys and Silas are already situated at the far end of the table, with a sprawl of documents and maps covering most of the table, and that they are currently discussing something pretty in-depth. And as all of you enter into the establishment, they both do seem to notice you and wrap up their conversation within a minute or so. And it doesn't really take that much of an active perception check to hear that they're talking about like maps, about what path they're going to need to take. And you can also see that the Grove Shard, that small hand-sized green crystal, is still sitting kind of at the center of a lot of those papers. And that it does definitely appear that that has probably been the biggest focus of discussion. So as we enter into the scene, all of you are free to kind of begin and take a look at anything you might want more information on.
I know Siggy's gonna go to the bar.
Probably.
All right.
I will probably head to the bar in a as inconspicuous manner as possible. Address the bartender somewhat quietly and ask him if it will be possible for him to refill my flask.
Unfortunately, this is a pretty small building. There's really not much room to be inconspicuous, so you kind of just go over there. And as stated prior, the bar is unmanned. There's nobody there. However, the second that you do go over there, you do notice that one of the shakers that was sitting on the counter does actually rise up as if it was being handled by something.
What the... what the hell is that?
And as you kind of exclaim that, Varys does kind of mention over the distance of the room, "Oh, it's an unseen servant. Just state what you want and it'll get it for you."
I'd like my flask to be refilled with spirits. And I put it down on the counter and I wait for it to be refilled, looking at the floating mixer shaker with a lot of confusion.
Yep, you do see that as you go and hold out your flask, the little shaker does get set down on the counter, and then you do feel your flask being taken from you very gently, and then it does go and take the take the flask and then goes and fills it up with a pretty nice looking jar of ale. It fills it right up to the brim, screws on the top, and then hands it right over to you in this very odd, invisible fashion.
I take it, still confused. I expect a voice to give me the price that I should pay, and I believe I hear none.
Yeah, you don't see anything pop up, and you kind of assume that it's probably covered.
I see. I approach Varys with a wobbly attitude, like I still cannot process what just happened. Was definitely very strange. And under my breath, people may be able to hear me complain that nobody in this fucking country has heard of spirits.
Yeah, as you go over and approach the table, it's fairly large. I would say probably about like 2.5 meters across in diameter. And there's about, aside from the 2 seats that are on the far end of the table, there's another 4 that occupy the rest of the table. And as you go over and approach, Varys and Silas are still kind of finishing up whatever discussion they may have been having prior, and they unfortunately don't seem to have really noticed exactly your confusion there too much.
I will address them. Is being served by a ghost something I should get used to here?
Varys does pipe up. Oh, yes, that. I suppose you may have not had that before. Yes, that is an unseen servant. It is a spell that has been enchanted onto the bar itself. It will serve pretty much anything that you might need, and everything within this establishment, at the very least, is provided on the house, provided it's not too out of hand.
I see. Thank you for that, then. Thank you. This is weird. This is very weird.
Oh, trust me. Stay with the guild, and you will get used to it faster than you might think.
This is promising, I suppose.
As is work with the guild. And with that, he does kind of go back to one of the papers, and you can kind of hear him mentioning, it's like, So we have the basis for how this works now. Are we really certain that we want to take this today? Conditions are indeed favorable, but we need to make sure that this is going to work. And you can kind of see Silas just kind of sit there stoically for a second, arms kind of folded in contemplation. And of course, throughout all of this, his mask is still on, oddly enough. But he does eventually chime in and state, we may not have another chance for the crossing to be this favorable. We need to go now. And you can see Varys kind of contemplate it a little bit, very tentatively, and concedes at that point before he goes and starts pulling a majority of the papers that were sprawled across the table and kind of folding all of them up, as it were.
Oh, sorry.
No, you go ahead.
Mizu speaks up. I'm assuming this is about the border travel.
Yes, as Varys then chimes in, yes, this is indeed. We're going over some last preparations before we can go and get everything all set up. We are hoping that we should be able to proceed with the border crossing by midday, if not slightly in the afternoon, and that hopefully whatever this is, and he gestures to the Grove Shard crystal that is sitting kind of in the center of the table. And hopefully this should be able to provide us a means of egress into the actual countryside. Before we get too much into that, please, everybody do come and sit down. This is going to take a little bit of discussion on everybody's end.
We sit down.
Sigurdhur takes a chair. Is it adapted for his sizable back end?
Yeah, you actually do notice that, oddly enough, the chairs do appear to have been made pretty well with a majority of other races kind of in mind. Is the width, and the width is fine for you, and you do actually also know that there's even like a tail hole in the back of it and everything. And that for you, the height of it probably only comes up to like your shoulders or something, like the very like base of the neck. Whereas for the rest of you, I mean, it probably goes and covers almost the entire back of your head.
Makes sense, yeah. Considering the size differences.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Alright. As Mizu sits down, Coco jumps out from underneath the hood and sits on her lap.
All right. And I'm assuming Wylle does much of the same.
Absolutely. It's gonna sit on the nearest chair you can find.
All right. Yeah, so all of you go and sit down, and you can Varys finally goes and reaches over and puts the Grove Shard crystal back into a little metal sigil that was kind of sitting underneath a set of the papers. And you can actually see that as he goes and places the Grove Shard into that sigil, you do actually notice a very, very faint glow to it. It's nothing too surprising, but it is at the very least noticeable. It doesn't appear to have like activated or anything. It's just kind of there.
Magic stuff.
Yeah. And then as he does so, he finally finishes putting the papers into a folder that's kind of off to his side underneath the desk. So officially, greetings everybody. Hopefully the night's rest was able to heal much of the exhaustion from yesterday's investigation and impromptu exorcism.
Yes and no. Well, yes and no, because Mizu looks over at Wylle. It seems that Wylle over here, Mr. Welleria, has a bit of trouble speaking at the moment. So he very much can still hear, at least. It may just be a bit difficult for him to speak right now.
Yeah, whatever hit my head in the last fight, it hit me hard, I'll tell you that much.
Yes, as is not too surprising, Allips are generally created from sources of forbidden knowledge, either protected by insanely strong magical creatures, or in some case, even the gods themselves. So for it to have been haunting Mr. Trugust and unleashing its ire onto yourselves is no small situation. Again, the guild has seen fit to reward you for that. So officially, just to get this out of the way, the guild has seen fit to add to the reward on your contract for the completion of both the primary and secondary objectives of your contract. The reward is now totaling at 175 gold per adventurer, and for the assistance in saving the life of an important guild artisan, the guild has also seen fit to offer each of you your choice of one magical item from our stock. And at that point, Silas reaches underneath the table and pulls up a decently sized wooden box with a fairly nice ornate cover on top of it. It's about 1 meter by half a meter. And he sets it down on the table in front of all of you. And if you go into the items tab in Foundry here, there should be a box that lists as offered items and then guild box. Is everybody able to see that?
Oh, yeah.
Yes, so as he goes and opens the box, you can see that there's actually a pretty decent number of items that are all set into this kind of black cloth resting spot in the box. And in order, you can see the items arranged as a spherical glass bottle with black and gray smoke shifting within. There is a gray set of gloves that is fairly unassuming. There is a black set of gloves with a very slight purple trim to it. There is a rather unassuming small leather sack. There is a jar of white ointment with a red seal. There is a small brass ring encircled with green gems. There is an unadorned silver ring that is completely without features. There is another silver ring which is encircled with bright blue gems. And there is a fairly compact coil of absolutely pristine rope. And as Silas goes and opens this up, Varys chimes in. So each of you are allowed to choose one item from this small menagerie, again, as rewards for assisting in the rescue of Dr. Roderick Trugust. And if you need any explanation of these items, definitely feel free to ask. A majority these are fairly uncommon items, but they are by no means simple baubles that the guild pulled up from scrap.
As he says that, Coco skedaddles out of Mizu's lap and scurries over to the box and just shoves his head inside the box and looks over the items before he pulls out the ring with the blue gems and starts fiddling around with it.
Sorry, what was that?
Little gremlin.
Yeah, as Coco does come out, you can see Silas kind of flinch with the box a little bit, as if almost trying to like stop him from going in, but you can see Varys wave his hand, just kind of telling him that it's okay. And he just kind of leaves the box open for Coco. And then as Coco does go and grab the silvered ring with the blue gems, Varys does kind of chuckle to himself and chimes in, that would be a ring of water walking. So long as you are attuned to the item, you can stand on and move across any liquid surface as if it were solid ground. The only caveat being that, of course, if you attempt to walk across any hazardous surfaces, such as acids or things like magma, you will still, unfortunately, be suffering the damage of that.
While he explains and talks, Coco fiddles around with the ring, and because of his own size, almost puts it on like a cute bracelet and like starts looking at it.
Yeah, for the most part, you can kind of tell, just knowing that a majority of magical items is that they are usually not able, most of them are usually not able to be attuned to by creatures, much less familiars, so...
That's good to know. But yeah, I feel like Coco would just have it on just to kind of mess around with it.
I lean towards Wylle and I hide my mouth and I whisper, do you know what's magma and what's acid?
Currently, just from what I know, which isn't a lot, from the colors, I'm going to say none.
What?
Do you not mean the items that are on the table?
No, I asked you what's magma and what's acid.
Just in general?
Yes.
Gotcha. Magma is mostly lava. Just lava stuck in the ground.
What's lava? What's lava?
Oh boy, okay.
It's spicy water.
Yeah. Okay, lava is rocks that have gotten so hot that they will melt your skin.
Oh.
Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay, cool. Acid is water that is so painful, it will also melt your skin most of the time.
How can water be painful?
I don't know the specific science behind it, or the magic, one of the two, but it hurts. That's all I can say.
And as this conversation is going on, you can see Varys kind of purse his lips in surprise a little bit. He's like, and you can hear him mutter under his breath, "Oh, this is going to be an adventure."
Thing is, I was trying to whisper and I was trying to hide my mouth because Sigurdhur tries to have this front of like, I'm not that stupid and illiterate. But since his body is so huge, I actually expect his voice to carry over much louder than he wants it to.
Yeah, I'm sorry, this boy got a 19 on his perception.
Yeah, that as well.
I was about to ask, and is it like anyone nearby can actually hear it? Like he's not being said?
I'm pretty sure they can.
Oh,
I'm pretty sure they can.
Oh boy. Okay.
And yeah, as this is going on, is Varys is still kind of just waiting for anybody to chime in and just state what other objects they might be interested in. Is he has mentioned that he is willing to go over all of the items one by one, but he was kind of waiting to see if anybody had a specific item that they were wanting to check out first.
While Coco seems particularly infatuated with the ring, she is going to take a look at the ointment in the meantime. Like, she picks up the jar and looks it over.
And as you do so, Varys chimes in, stating, yes, that would be a jar of Kyoton's ointment. It contains a couple of doses of an aloe-like mixture. and that you can apply that to anybody either by spreading it on their skin or having them swallow a dosage of it. And it should not only heal them fairly significantly, but it will also cure them of any poison or disease. However, I will admit that it is unfortunately not entirely magical, so the dosages do not recharge like some other magical items. It's very handy to have out in the field, especially on adventures, but it is to just make sure everybody's aware, it is the singular consumable item of the bunch here.
Sounds handy and useful, however, so I'll bookmark this. I'll put a flip note on it.
Oh, you would be surprised. Every single item in here has some fairly significant meaning to an adventurer. It's merely on how you would like to apply these to your adventure.
And as he says that, she puts it back down and looks over to the other two, as if to kind of silently ask if they would like to take a look at any of the items next.
I am curious, and he points to the ring that is to the ring with the blue-green jewels that are built into it. What exactly is this? Just looks like regular jewelry to me.
Yeah, Varys goes and mentions, this would be... are you asking about this ring specifically? And he does point to the small brass ring with the green gems and everything.
Yes, that is the one.
Right. You do see as you state that, you do actually see that that there is a small spectral hand does appear above the box as Varys kind of waves his hands around, or his one hand around a little bit. And you can see the ring get picked up, and the hand just kind of spins it around very slowly, just to kind of give you an idea of what it looks like. This would be a ring of jumping. Once you are attuned to it, you can cast the jump spell on yourself as an action at will, but you can only target yourself with the spell. The spell itself, aptly named, allows you to jump 3 times your typical jumping distance. Can be very handy to get over walls or up cliffs, or to avoid specific items.
Sounds handy.
It is, if you know which situations to be able to utilize it in. The other,
yes.
If that does pique your interest, I would also suggest considering the rope of climbing, which he then has the mage hand go and place the ring back down, and it kind of gently picks up the coil of rope in one hand. This is an item that does something very similar. It's 60 feet in length, and it can hold up to 3,000 pounds. You can speak a magical command word, and the rope will animate, and you can command the rope to move towards a destination of your choosing. It moves at about 10 feet every 6 or so seconds, and it can either move up or down or across, pretty much anywhere you would want it to go. And it is also strengthened to allow anybody attempting to climb up it an easier chance to do so. So it's very much kind of an autonomous rope, just in case you need to get up or over or across anything.
I like this. I'll take this.
All right. So on DDB, just go and mark that you have a rope of climbing, and Varys takes out a small notepad and will strike that off of a list. So that is the first item that has been chosen.
Does Wylle want to look at anything?
Yeah, he's interested in the little bag. Little leather bag.
Yeah, as Wylle kind of appears to be showing interest in it, Varys does preemptively go and place the, he goes and does hand the robe over to Sigurdhur, and he has the mage hand pick up the small leather sack, and he mentions, this would be a Heward's handy spice pouch. This is a little bit less useful during particular action, I would say, but it is very, very useful for other kinds of things that you might run into on your adventures. Basically, the enchanted pouch has 10 charges, and that while using the pouch, you can cause it to exhume any non-magical food seasoning, such as like salt, pepper, saffron, cilantro, basil, and remove a pinch of it from the pouch, which is enough. Usually it gives enough to season a single meal. And that, unlike the jar of ointment, this item does magically recharge itself every dawn. However, it is not necessarily without its exhaustion. Is generally it restores anywhere from 4 to 10 charges per day. So it should hopefully be enough for a majority of you to season more or less all of your meals throughout the day. And again, this is a magical item. However, again, not too useful in a fight. It's more for the basic living amenities of an adventurer, not having to constantly stock up on those things.
It is pretty handy, I will admit.
Yes, and I suppose if that is a majority of the items that everybody is interested in, I can also describe the remaining items if you would wish, just to at the very least know what they do.
I am very interested in the bottle. That one seems very important.
Yes, that would be an ever-smoking bottle. And as he begins explaining, he sets the spice pouch down and goes and picks up the bottle with the mage hand. And it kind of, you notice that the mage hand slowly starts like rotating it, but the smoke on the inside of it doesn't seem to rotate with the rest of the round flask. It appears to kind of move and shift on its own, independent of however the glass is rotated. So this is what is called an ever-smoking bottle. If you remove the stopper on the bottle, you can cause an area of about 60 feet in radius to become completely heavily obscured by the smoke. And that for every minute that the bottle remains open, the radius increases by about 10 feet until it's roughly about twice its initial size, about 120 feet, and that the cloud will persist so long as the bottle is open. Once the bottle is closed back up again, the cloud disperses after about 10 minutes, although it can more quickly be dispersed by a moderate wind. And you can also disperse the smoke after 1 minute if you so choose. And this is luckily an item that is, again, not necessarily consumable. However, you do want to make sure that you are using it sparingly, lest for whatever reason you exhaust whatever magical enchantments it may have on it.
Right, so theoretically, you could leave it out open all night long.
You could, however, that would obscure whatever area you are looking at in a heavy fog up to, again, about 120 feet in radius. It could be handy, but I would, at the very least myself, struggle to find why you would want to do so.
Curiosity, at the very least.
Fair enough. Then I suppose if there's no more specifics that anybody wants to follow up, I will just go through the rest of the items. Is the first set of gloves we have here, and he has his mage hand pick up the set of the set of gray gloves that are fairly unassuming. These are a pair of gloves of swimming and climbing. Is while you are attempting to do either of those actions, you will find that they don't hamper your movement in the way that a majority of them usually do, and that usually if there's anything that requires a set of strength to be able to either move or stay where you are, you will notice that it does make those easier, and that is a standard magical enchantment that you receive while you are attuned to the items. And the other set of gloves here are usually these would be more for if you have a rogue in your party, which I do note that you are at this moment lacking. These are a pair of gloves of thievery. When you equip the gloves, they become invisible, so it looks like you aren't necessarily wearing anything, and you will notice that actions that require a deft hand, such as lock-picking or moving items, are much, much easier. So usually these are a little bit more useful if there's the little bit less, I suppose, a little bit less lock-influenced members of your party, but definitely rare for the guild to go and actually provide any of these, given their proclivity to hold on to magical items. Then the singular other remaining item that was not mentioned is a ring of subtlety. This will only really be useful for either of you two, and he points at Mizu and Wylle. While wearing this ring, once a day, you may cast any singular spell without any verbal or somatic components. The spell simply takes effect without any noise or motion. So it can be handy in a pinch if you are trying to activate a spell silently or stealthily, or if, for whatever reason, you find yourself in a field of magical silence.
Interesting.
So, given the description of all of the items in here, I suppose for the remaining two of you, if you would like to make your selection, we can go and then move on with business.
You go first, Walf.
Damn it.
I said it.
You know, I'm tempted between the spice pouch and the gloves of thievery. Just being able to use my hands would be very nice. Not to mention the fact that these go invisible.
Yeah,
Sigurdhur
they're
holds his back tighter.
Yeah, sorry, what was that?
Sigurdhur starts to hold his bag much tighter now. Oh.
Of course. So while you can see Wylle take out a little coin from his bag, and he flips it, puts it on his hand, looks at the table, and just goes, "I'll take the gloves."
All right. Oddly enough, out of all of the items here, these do, of course, come with the caveat from the guild that if you utilize these on any guild property, that, of course, you will, unfortunately, have to pay a fine. Hopefully, from your lengthy file with the guild and prior track record, I hope that won't be an issue, and, I mean, in all honesty, I wouldn't blame you if you tried.
Oh, please. The worst thing I could take is a pencil.
He kind of narrows his eyes a little bit at that. It just kind of gives you a nod like, okay. So on D&D Beyond, go and mark down a set of gloves of thievery.
Let's go. You could tell he's not taking this entirely seriously, by the way. When he says that, he has like a dumb grin on his face.
Mm-hmm. And then Varys then goes and turns to Sigurdhur. Sorry, not Sigurdhur, Mizu.
Yes, Mizu is actually a huge-ass dragonborn.
We love buff women in this party.
Mizu looks over to Coco, who's still very much infatuated with the ring, but her eyes then slowly move back to the ointment. And you can see her gaze flickering between those two items as Wylle and Varys speak before she feels Varys' eyes slowly land on her. She flinches at that, but she tries to regain her composure as quickly as she can and picks up the jar. Yeah, she picks up the ointment. But she then also nudges Coco to return the ring back, which he does reluctantly.
Okay, so yeah, go and add a set of Kiokton's ointment in your inventory. You should hopefully be able to see the spelling in Foundry. I still don't entirely know how to actually pronounce that, but hopefully I did not butcher that as much as I believe.
I assume it's just Ketum, but I may also just be simplifying it too much.
Yeah, D&D's weird, like in how it pronounces certain things, but we'll just.
Also, what do you mean Coco isn't a valuable member of the party? He deserves that ring.
The loophole.
The loophole.
I mean, if you want to try and argue that, I mean, you can always try.
Come on, Wylle, do it. No, Wylle, do it. Come on.
Come on, he did so much for you, Wylle. He did so much.
He doesn't know he was unconscious.
He was Fortnite dancing on your shoulder, Wylle.
You contemplating it? You can see Wylle like staring at Coco like, do I try? It'd be funny.
Coco does the pleading eyes emoji.
Is he actually looking at Wylle?
Yeah.
Does he want the ring that badly?
Yeah, he likes the swirly water pattern on it. There's like a Mexican standoff between a dad and his puppy.
Yeah, they're just staring at each other like they know exactly what's about to happen, but Wylle does not want to let him win.
Pleading eyes emoji, Wylle. Pleading eyes.
He looks at the table, just closes his eyes, puts his fingers on his temple. Hey, Varys.
Yes?
Important is that ring?
Decently important, I would say. Is generally an item like this would fetch anywhere between 2,000 to 1,500 gold on the market.
Okay. Right. That's a lot.
He kind of raises an eyebrow when you ask. You can kind of assume without needing to roll that he's kind of a little bit curious about why you're asking, considering you just got a set of gloves of thievery.
Yeah, I could use the gloves on it. Yeah. No, sorry. I was curious. The little guy on the table is giving me the little puppy eyes, and he got it to me.
Yeah, Varys looks over and sees that Coco's still kind of playing with the ring. And he goes, he looks back to you and kind of raises an eyebrow, kind of curiously. Roll me a persuasion check.
Oh.
It's the 17.
Let me roll something. Yeah, that is a 6.
Let's go.
He takes a look at you, takes a look back at Coco. Kind of, you can see his eyes very quickly dart over to Silas and then back to Coco. And he He eventually just kind of, all right, I'll pull some strings, take it.
Oh my god.
So you can also add a ring of water walking onto your inventory of whoever wants that.
This is brilliant.
And that you can see Varys scribbling something down on the sheet of paper that assumedly had the inventory list of all of the items, and he then you can see him go and stuff the paper sheet underneath his shirt, and then goes and looks directly at you. So in return, there is going to be a matter that I would like some assistance with once we do reach Weave, but that can wait until later. It won't be anything too strenuous, but at the very least, it will be worth the cost of the item, I would say.
Yeah, while I was just like waving a hand in front of him, like, yeah, no, that's fine. I have to repair you one way or another for this.
And as all of you have selected your magical items, Silas does go and silently closes the case, at which point you can actually see that as he closes it, you can see that there is a brief little line of light that runs across where the top and bottom halves of the box meet, and you can assume that there is some kind of magical lock on it.
Okay, did Mizu take the ring, or should I put it in mine?
I mean, Coco.
It is technically in Coco's possession, so I would say that unless Mizu wants to hand it to anybody, that it is a part of Mizu's inventory.
Figured. I just wanted to make sure that, you put it in your inventory.
Yeah, I'll add it. And I'll just flavor it that Coco's wearing it like a bracelet because his hands are tiny enough.
Yeah, I don't actually know I don't think he can attune to it. Hold on.
I don't think
Unfair.
so. I didn't even think about it. I just think that Coco is infatuated with the swirly patterns because it reminds him of water. Yeah.
Oh, actually, no. It says that yes, he can actually meet the.
No way.
For attunement, because he is technically a creature. So yes, he can actually attune to the ring of water walking if he wants.
But he can actually become Jesus.
He's becoming a demigod slowly but surely.
He's getting there. Jesus Christ.
As all of this is going on, Varys does then go and move the small little metal sigil that was on the desk forward, and that also seemingly moves the crystal forward. So, to the matter of business at hand. So, all of you were, of course, good enough to recover the Grove Shard that Dr. Roderick Chugust was working on. He unfortunately has not regained consciousness just yet. They say that it might be another day or two until then. But we believe that we have enough information on this to be able to proceed fully. So, if anybody else has any other business to take care of before we head out, we will, of course, be looking to proceed hopefully sometime around midday or afternoon, so that we can make the border crossing before night. And that, of course, if there's any business that you have to finish here in Belmare, I would suggest getting it done first. Travel back and forth between Weave and Belmare hopefully should not be as strenuous once we can get the teleportation nexus set up, but it may be a good month or so until then. So definitely make sure that if you have any items that you are needing to send back in the post, that just make sure that those are done, and make sure that, of course, if there are any items or supplies that you need to procure, do that now, just because the border crossing can not only be fairly strenuous, but also remarkably strange and mysterious. There's a lot of unexplained phenomena that can happen, and we just want to make sure that everybody is at the very least, sufficiently prepared before we proceed.
Oh, on that note, Mizu pipes up. Is there a post office actually nearby?
Yes, Belmare does indeed have a post office. It should just be a block and a half down.
She nods at that. Okay, good to know. I was planning to write my mother about this.
Yes, they should be able to do so, and the guild has some express postage. Where were you looking to have it sent to?
To Wuyon.
Okay. Yes, we should be able to load it onto one of the shipments that we have heading that way, so that should hopefully be received within the day.
She nods and she gratefully nods at that. That was her question.
Alright.
How do travelers usually shield themselves from the strange phenomena that happen?
As you say that, you can kind of see Varys deflate for about half a second. That's kind of the thing we don't.
Sorry. You don't?
It's less that we don't attempt to, and more that we are unable to. The phenomenon at the border has existed for millennia, and there hasn't ever been a way to really find a way through it. It was only by pure chance that 1 year ago we were able to figure out that there was a section of the mist that was clearing itself out, but it is anything if inconsistent. There are certain days that it waxes and wanes in both density and power, and even on some of the best of the days we do get strange phenomena happening. People getting separated, items being lost, creatures being found within the mists that generally are just as lost as we are. And even flora and fauna that do not exist in the region or even to this planet in some ways.
And so this is why you and your colleague Silas wanted to make the crossing tonight and not any other night, or today,
yes.
Shall I say?
Yes, some of the border scouts that we have dispatched were able to find that it does appear that the border crossing is waning slightly, and we are expecting that it should be hopefully at its weakest by noon between nightfall. However, we don't know if that is going to keep up or if it may change. I mean, the weather in this region is unpredictable at best, and that may influence the barrier on the border as well. So we simply want to make sure that we are proceeding with the crossing as soon as possible so that we do not lose our window, because it could be anywhere from a couple of days to a couple of years before we get another chance like this.
This is giving me a headache.
Yes, that is the reason why the guild was so keen on sending a set of decently powerful adventurers through to retrieve the main portion of the teleportation nexus, so that way we can facilitate travel between Weave and anywhere else with a teleportation nexus without having to make another border crossing.
He takes a very long gulp of what's inside his flask. He thinks out loud, I'm going to need more of that. Can I take a bottle with me?
It should be fine. I mean, if anything, if worse comes to worse, I'm sure Roderick would want us to reward you personally for whatever endeavors. I'm sure a small bottle of spirits shouldn't be any concern to him.
Small for you or small for me?
We'll just leave it as whatever it is you might be looking for. He kind of waves his hand nonchalantly.
I appreciate it. Do you have a place where I can find such a bottle, maybe? Because it appears you don't sell that kind of alcohol here.
There should be something in the back. The unseen spirit is set to simply dispense whatever is most commonly available. If you state exactly what you're looking for, usually it can try to find something. It just, unfortunately, it is not enchanted to know approximately what you might like, but state exactly what you're looking for, and there's a decent chance that it may be able to find, at the very least, something similar.
Alright. So, should I just approach the counter then?
Yep, yeah, as you just get up from the chair and approach the counter, you can see the drink shaker raise up again as if it is being handled by some invisible humanoid creature, just kind of signifying that it is, at the very least, attent to your presence.
I would like, and he really tries to be excessively articulate because he doesn't really understand how the magic works. So he just tries to speak very awkwardly to a presence that is not really there. I would like a bottle of vodka. It is an alcohol made from rye, and it is white or transparent in color.
Alright, as you state that, you do see the drink shaker kind of stop in midair for a second as if it's thinking, and then it gets placed back down on the counter before you can hear some glass bottles clinking and rummaging together over on some unseen lower portion of the counter over closer to the wall. And eventually you actually, let me roll for this. Yep, yeah, as you hear some of the rummaging and clinking, you can see a clear bottle being brought out from underneath the counter, and it places itself onto the counter in front of you.
Oh, this is beautiful. Oh, you can see like a tear of emotion dribble down his left cheek. Oh, this is beautiful. He takes it, goes back to the table, and says, "Alright, I'm ready to go whenever."
Alright. And is there anything else that anybody else wanted to do in town before we proceed?
I think
It's pretty true.
aside from Mizu sending a letter to Yukino, that should be it.
Okay. All right. So yeah, we'll just state that you're able to draft your letter pretty easily, and you do hand that off to Varys, who goes off and handles some other preparations of his own. He states that he will meet you back in about an hour, and while he's going and getting everything ready. And that in the meantime, Silas is kind of accompanying all of you, just kind of chilling out in the central plaza of Barmwich, with the intent that about now it's early morning, maybe around like 10, 11 o'clock or something. And the intent is that you will be heading out within the hour to go and make it to the border crossing.